the corner of Crump and Florida Street every night. It's like you're going to chop cotton. But from 9 o'clock at night to 4 o'clock in the morning, Joe was my main man, make sure I don't get in trouble. The thing is, I had to keep him out of trouble because he liked to bottle a little bit too much. But I started over Plantation in Florida in 64, 65, 65. And we had a real nice thing going, and I really enjoyed myself. And got a lot of people mad at me due to the fact, as a kid, I was playing a place over in Memphis called the Southern Club. I don't know if y'all have heard of it, but it was on Crump and 3rd Street. Mr. Tallarico found out that I couldn't play with him anymore over there. It was J.F. Stewart's band during that time, and J.F. Stewart had some hits out in the street during that time, pretty good record playing. So he told me not to ever come back over there and play at his club no more. So Mr. Earl, Earl Hot Biscuits, told me, don't worry about it, we can come over there and play. Isaac Hayes had us over there, and we played over there for $20 a night. We was making more money over there than we was making over here then. But that's the way I've become to play over here with Floyd, and I've enjoyed myself. And as musicians go, you can't find any better musicians that you can find with Floyd Newman aggregation during that time. Now, Isaac brought me over here because we were playing over there with J.F. Stewart during the same time. And we had so many other clubs in Memphis. Even Willie Mitchell's sons, we played with them for a while there. They called them after Chevrolet. What was the Impalas? Yeah, Impalas. I played with the Impalas for a while, and I said, well, I'm getting to know some people, but gee whiz, there's so many going so far out, and I had to go all the way over to West Memphis. But I enjoyed my time I had here, and besides that, I think being a truck driver, I came out better.
Well, so many of the musicians that played at the Plantation Inn, of course, actually lived in Memphis and would come across the river. I guess that was by the old, what they call the old bridge now. It was the only bridge at that time. But our next speaker, Bo Pete, actually lived in West Memphis and still does. And of course, some of the other musicians did too, but I guess they were the minority. That most of them were from Memphis, but maybe you could now tell us about your involvement with Plantation Inn.
Well, they had the bebop hall, They was playing a little upscale music. I was playing on the 7th Street, where it was all chitlin juice. The down home blues. That's where I started at. Of course, the guy that Floyd hired in 65, I believe, or 66, called him Basie. We had played together for, 4 or 5 years. And Floyd would get gigs out of town, and they asked me to play at Plantation Inn. And I didn't have no show. And of course, they accepted me, but I could tell they wasn't thrilled. But anyway, we got paid, they treated us nice. And of course, Mr. Berger, I knew him before the Plantation Inn. He had a clothing store on 8th Street, the corner of 8th. And Brenda never mentioned that, and I wondered why. And later on, they opened up the Plantation Inn, and then Poncho's, I guess. But that's my experience with them. As far as West Memphis, I'm going to tell you this. My mother had a little honky-tonk. You didn't have a license back then. You paid $12.50 a week for your permit to sell. You could sell anything you could get in there, 24 hours a day. We had 2 dice tables. You paid $50 a week for the front one and $25 for the back one. So it was $87.50 a week. You could operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you could sell an elephant if you could get him up in there. So that's my experience, some of it, with Plantation Inn. That's about it. I was only there for a couple of times.
Okay, all right. And Calvin Newbern, I know we've already heard quite a bit, but I know there's more. Maybe you could actually talk about sort of the years that you played at the Plantation Inn, when you began and when was maybe the last time, and who were in the various bands. I know some were your family band, but perhaps you played in other groups there as well.
Well, my dad formed the band at the Plantation Inn in 1948. And the band consists of my brother and I, and he hired Wanda Jones as vocalist.
So it was just, it was piano, guitar, and drums?
No, it was,
at the
we
time?
had four
To
horns.
start? Oh.
We had a band.
Oh.
Because my brother wrote music and I wrote arrangements for the band. My dad, he called it a family show band, but my dad was very particular about learning to play what the audience wanted. If anybody requested anything one night, the next night he would go buy the music and we would learn it. We never got a request that we didn't play. The record companies was looking for raw artists, those who could play the blues but couldn't read music or contract. So we never got a record deal. But that band was, if you think Motown in Detroit was bad, shoot, man, we put Motown to shame. Because we didn't, Motown, they had to learn how to be the personality on the stage. It came natural with us. We had a quartet within the band, and
You mean a vocal?
vocal. I was singing all the Ray Charles stuff. My dad was that kind of band leader. He told me one day, if Lionel Hampton can teach a Polly Parrot how to sing, I know you can. So I learned how to sing Hey Bob and Rebop. And I sang, I was very young then. That was amateur night at the Palace. Rufus was MC, and my brother played on one end of the piano, and I played the boogie on the bottom end and danced and sang Hey Bob and Rebop. Your mama's on the bottom, your papa's on top, your sister's in the kitchen singing When It's Gonna Stop. And my dad was back in the wing answering me, Hey Bob and Rebop. And pretty soon the whole audience was answering me, Hey Bob and Rebop, and the house was rocking. But that was the beginning of the main ingredient of rock and roll. That was boogification. And Sam Phillips, we recorded at Memphis recording services for Sam, all kinds of boogie woogies. And he got the idea, because the band that my dad had then to record with, it wasn't his band, it was Luther Steinberg's band. And Luther's and his brothers, Luther, Wilbur, and Morris. And they could all pass for white. I believe that's when Sam got the idea, I'm almost sure. Because Wilbur sounded just like Nat King Cole. Though he didn't look nothing like that, but he sounded just like him. And it wasn't long before Sam, I think my dad introduced Elvis to boogification. Because when my dad played the drums, if you can't dance, you would dance. That's right. He had a shuffle he called the mash. I ain't heard nothing like it since. When he locked you in, you ain't going nowhere. That's what my Daddy Finers, was a great drummer. Shuffle. Couldn't read a note big as your head, but he could play a show with nothing but a snare drum and catch all the cues. And before he died, he had made Elvis dance and he had made elephants dance. That was his act for the circus, playing the drums to make the elephants dance. And the circus loved him. Paul A. Miller Circus, he had concession stands and all, you know. But back to the Plantation Inn, Floyd reminded me of something when he talked about Louis Jack, because Mr. Morris was such a gentleman. I think he could have played that part and gone with the wind for Clark Gable. That's right. Look at that. He was something else. Mr. Morris.
He was a pretty man.
He was.
A pretty man.
But not only that, but now there's one thing, he wasn't prejudiced, but there's one thing like you reminded me of. My dad hired a vocalist. He heard him sing at Sunbeam's place, Mitchell's Hotel Lounge. That's where Bill Harvey played. Yeah. And Harold Connors sang one night with Bill Harvey's band, and Harold Connors was gay. Now, Harold Connors was also gay. He had long nails, face made up, long eyelashes, and when he sang, you thought it was a woman singing. But my dad liked the way he sang, and he said, come on, I'm going to take you over to Plantation Inn tonight, and if Mr. Morris liked your singing, I'm going to hire you. We took Harold went over with us, and Harold sang, but my dad said, Mr. Morris, what do you think about Harold? Mr. Morris said, I like his singing, but I don't like his looks. So when we were on our way back to Memphis, I said, Harold, if you want the gig, start acting like a man and look like a man.
No.
The next night he came back, and Mr. Morris hired him. He worked with us from then on. Harold was, if you think Little Richard could sing, you should have heard Harold Connors. Harold Connors could sing anything. He used to sing, shake a hand, and walk through the audience. He was a show. But it was more like a gospel thing, a spiritual. You know, that's what was so important about those years. The spirit was everywhere. You know, nowadays it's just becoming to get to the point where people recognize that the spirit is what took rock and roll to the ends of the earth. See, Elvis watched me every Wednesday and Friday night playing the guitar like I was happy, like I was sanctified, swiveling my hips and wiggling my legs, and Elvis picked up on it, and my dad said, Calvin, let Elvis play your guitar, right up there at the Flamingo Room. And Elvis tore all the strings off my guitar. I don't know how he did it. Tear 6 strings off a guitar and had me a stringless guitar. Ain't no way I could have followed it. But he went on to reign. Elvis the Pelvis. So it was a spirit. See, I got it from my granddaddy. My granddaddy was a Church of God in Christ preacher. He was a jackleg preacher, they called him. but he knew the Bible by heart. But, and he played guitar. I didn't find out until just before he died. I don't know how he tuned it. Don't know what he played. I call it omnifarious music of all sorts, types, and kinds. It just came from out there. He was a raw musician, but he could play. He'd have that church jumping, you know. But that was the spirit. That's the spirit that Sam knew about. That's the spirit that Mr. Morris knew about. That's the spirit that Elvis knew about, that went to the ends of the earth. That's rock and roll. It's not, see, a lot of people don't know that the blues is a prayer. Ain't no difference in the music between gospel and the blues. My daughter sings gospel, and her husband plays gospel. He's a bad organ, but he could play jazz too if he wanted to, but like I told my daughter, you want to raise them kids, stay in church. Because I believe that's the only way the newborns survived, and I'm the last one left. I'm the last of the first family of jazz of Memphis. They got a big note right in front of King's Palace on the Beale Street Sidewalk of Fame. Memphis Jazz's finest, and got all of our names by that note. And that's the best tribute I believe I've ever seen. Thank you, Memphis. But that's because we put the boogification in rock and roll, as quiet as it's kept. You see, rock and roll is boogification and romantic lyricism, which ain't nothing but the blues. That's what it is. And the blues ain't nothing but a prayer. Because the media and the people who are worshiping money have separated it for the benefit of making money. I call it omnifarious music. That's the name of my company. Omnifarious, of all sorts, types, and kinds. If it's good music, I love it, because I know where it came from. I started playing country. First piece I learned how to play was a steel guitar rag. And I'm sitting in the Emerald Music Store down there on Main Street playing the steel guitar, and dude said, "Boy, you want to join the Grand Ole Opry?" And like a fool, I said, "Yes, no, sir, I want to play jazz." I'd have been rich as cream riding on a white horse. Either that or I would be locked up or covered up. Anyway, God blessed me, and the Plantation Inn was my start, you know, and that's where I learned how to write for instruments. That's where I learned how to play trombone. I taught my wife how to play trombone. We used to do battles with the trombone. Blow your horn, blow your horn. And one night I remember about Mr. Morris. This is why I knew he was a very spiritual person. Because one night when we played our last number, somebody called from Memphis, called from the Peabody Hotel and told him that some movie stars was coming over to hear my brother play. They had heard about his prodigious piano playing, and they wanted to hear my brother play. It was Pat O'Brien, Dave Ryan, John Carradine, and Eva Gabor. At that time, she was one of the 10 top blondes. That was before Marilyn Monroe. But they came over, Mr. Morris went upstairs, woke up the whole family when they got there. Come on down, y'all. Movie stars here. So they got out of bed and came down, and they were all lined up. Brenda was a little girl then. Louis Jack was a young kid. And they were all standing waiting to get autographs, and all the movie stars was on the bandstand. And my brother was playing Cherokee faster than fast. Could nobody keep up with him. Eva Gabor was sitting on the piano stool, amazed. And the others were they gave me their address. If you come to Hollywood, I want you to meet my daughter. Mr. Morris was standing back there just as cool until, and they stood back there, not back there, at the front of the club where you come in. They stood at the front of the club, and I guess they were up there about 30 or 40 minutes, you know, and they waited. Mr. Morris stood and waited till they got through giving us their numbers, you know, and until my brother got through playing. And when they left, that's when they got autographs. That's how cool Mr. Morris was. You see, I don't think any white person in Memphis would have done that. Because I've seen Mr. Morris, I've seen him get angry now. Because my wife played a trombone solo for Tommy Dorsey. He and his brother Jimmy came over one night. And my dad said, "Why don't the place getting sentimental over you for Tommy?" And she played that song, and they had a long table. They stood up, gave her a standing ovation, and invited her to the table to get a drink. She knew better than to go. And Mr. Morris didn't say nothing. But we just knew, because it had happened before. You know, if we attempted to sit at a table, the audience would they could start a riot, you know. But Mr. Morris didn't care. He just didn't want no riot in the club, you know. But they would pour us glasses of liquor, and we'd drink it on the bandstand, get high as a kite, and my wife would say, somebody would come up the bandstand, "Sissy, can you sing Sweet Potatoes on Sandy Land?" And I would make up a song called Sweet Potatoes on Sandy Land. That's how I learned how to improvise.
What about Turkey in the Straw?
Oh, yeah. But anyway, you see, my dad got a music shop on Beale Street. And because he got B.B. King to take me down on Beale and pick out my first guitar. And I played on B.B.'s first record. But it took me all these years to find out that the answer to my problem is, can't nobody play the blues like me, you know? And I went down the jazz road, which was a dead-end street. So I'm back now to sing y'all some blues. Anyway. I'm going to end it right there because I could go on.
Well, actually, you raised something that I was going to try to go into next with everyone here. You mentioned how Wanda could not or didn't want to go to the table there with the white patrons, but there must have been situations when the patrons of the club would approach the bandstand for one reason or another. It might be a musician who wanted to sit in. It might be somebody who had musicians or about musicians, even when a white lady in an audience would maybe want to make her husband or boyfriend jealous and would go up and say something or act familiar with the musicians. Were there incidents or occasions when things would get kind of tense because of...
Oh, there were many incidents like that. But Mr. Mars kept it cool. You know, he was a very debutante person, and he didn't, I don't know how he handled it, but he did. You know, now, I remember there was a lot of white musicians coming over, sitting in with us. Like, there was a young alto player named Don Brooks. He was bad, he could play. And Don Brooks would come over, and he would fire up with us, man. Don Brooks loved to play with us, because my brother, you know, and my dad wouldn't mind us playing jazz, but we had to do everything else too, you know. But Don Brooks would come over and play, and Charlie Rich would come over and play. Mr. Mars wouldn't say anything about white people coming on the bandstand. You know, but we knew better than to go sit at a table with somebody, because it wouldn't be him, it would be somebody at another table who would start a riot. But that never happened. It almost happened a few times, but he controlled it. He'd go get him a drink of that Hill and Heel, and he'd straighten it out.
I can't believe he remembered that.
He was a good man. He loved that Hill and Heel. I love Mr. Morris.
Well, maybe some of the rest of the panelists could talk about things like that as well.
Yeah, I'd like to say something. I eventually hired bell tones, and they were top singing group. And they were really getting to the female white singing wise. Got to the point where they were coming up on the bandstand.
That's right.
That's when Mr. Morris had put some chicken wire around the bandstand to keep them from coming. I mean, they were just all up on the bandstand, and you know, before I hired the bell tones, there wasn't nothing like that happening, you know. But they were singing and dancing, and they just got to the audience. And like you said a few minutes ago, the females would get up, and they just come up on the bandstand. They want to dance also. They wasn't up there hugging nobody. They just want to come up there and dance. You know, so they said, no, we can't have this. Next thing, chicken white went up. But that doesn't really happen. They just was enthused with the music and the dances. Yeah.
And of course, with musicians sitting in, there's always an etiquette, I guess. You never know whether the person sitting in is going to be good or bad, but sometimes they don't want to sit out. They want to sit in, but they don't want to sit out. What would you do in cases like that? I'm sure not everybody sitting in was as good as some of the ones you mentioned.
What happened in some cases, you see, late at night, we could play jazz.
Mm-hmm.
So some jazz musicians would come over. And on Wednesdays, for some strange reason, in the middle of the week on Wednesdays, hardly anybody came in the club. Said people go, what they say, oh, these are the cotton people, people with money. They would come because they didn't want to be in there with the youngsters. And
Old cotton fields back home.
we let people, I had Edward Lewis come over one night, Booker Lewis was his cousin, Frank Strozier, and they all came over and played. Frank Strozier not only had a name that sounded like somebody white, but Frank looked white, 100%. Frank, I never forget, Frank played Autumn in New York. Yeah. Ooh, it's a beautiful song. And when Frank finished, this guy that I understand, they say he was a big cotton millionaire, he come on the bandstand and put his arm around Frank and said, "Little white boy, I ain't never heard no white boy play like that." Frank backed out from under his arm, put his arm in the case. Because that had happened to Frank so many times, you know, because he just looked completely white in all respect.
Good tell.
You know, and I said, "Frank Strozier? Oh, yeah. He's a German." And, you know, we didn't have too many incidents. Like I said, you know, people get carried away, go up on the stage and all that, you know. And when it happened to Frank put his horn up. He didn't play anymore. He was through. Yeah.
You know, the incidents with the Hopper brothers dancing on the floor, you remember? They out there, they dance in the middle of the floor, not on stage, but they dance right down the middle of the floor. The Hopper brothers. And a lot of people just didn't understand how well they could dance. They wanted to go out there and try to dance, but they couldn't do that. But they tried. So we had to start bringing them on back up on stage for a while. But between, like Floyd saying, these other people coming through, you didn't have too much of a problem over there. Now, Marvin Dacus, I don't know if y'all know him or not, but he used to be one of our favorite guests in the backstage at the time. I think, was it Dacus?
Dacus
yeah.
Construction Company or
Yeah.
something like that.
He was one of our favorite people in the backstage there because he used to pay us again down back there. You know. A lot of fun. But besides that, it wasn't too much of a problem. You have a lot of people come up there and give Floyd a little note to play songs and things like that. And the Veltones, Pee-wee, he was a little short and he could dance very well too. Besides Sam Jones and Alvin, I mean, that's one of the best groups you've ever heard, really. So they should have had albums and everything else out there. That's it.
We're jealous of the Hopper brothers. The Hopper brothers make more money than anybody.
Sure did.
People throwing money on the floor.
You know, he'd dance over and get it.
The many times I think white musicians would come to places like the Plantation Inn and would watch and pick up tips and ideas about music, technique, and so on. And then, of course, some would want to sit in as well. Obviously they would catch on to a lot of the music to some extent and would get better in playing that style of music themselves. As the white musicians did get better, did this create some kind of a competition for the audience? Did the audience, which was also white, did they start patronizing white musicians more? And did this affect
No, that didn't happen.
you, or that didn't happen?
That didn't happen. You know, I don't know, but anybody know was a white band ever hired at Plantation Inn?
No.
I didn't think so.
No.
That's why I asked that. It was all black bands the entire time that was the Plantation Inn.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So the white bands would have played
Daddy knew
at other places.
who had the music, who had the soul, who had the rhythm.
They had one person come in and sit in with the band or something like that, you know, like we was talking about. Fantastic alto player, Don.
Mose Allison was come over and play with us.
Yeah, Mose.
Charlie Rich.
Did you ever, any of you find that you were affected as musical tastes changed over the years? I mean, obviously their styles and
Well, you know,
tastes
Dave,
changed from the 40s
while I
to the
was at
60s.
the Plantation Inn, I found out that, you see, the show was good and we made a lot of tips. But white people threw a lot of change on the floor. Now, when we got to the Plantation Inn, it was a different story. This was black. And Memphis is the home of the blues, and black folks love the blues. And I was the king of the ballads of the blues at the Flamingo Room, so when I played the blues, I played on my knees. And I would slide to a table, and the big wheels, Memphis big wheels, would shower me with dollar bills. They didn't throw no change. You understand what I'm saying? Because they knew what time it was. And Dr. Atkins and, lawyers and doctors, and then they'd make their wife would make them throw dollar bills, and they would put their phone number in my pocket. And the doctor would ask me to bring my wife to their house so they could talk to her. Anyway, that's what was happening in Memphis. The black folks was just having an orgy most of the time. And I was with her.
Some clubs I know used to have special nights for particular audiences. I think you mentioned one entertainer, one singer who was gay, and I don't know if they had
Harold Connors.
Gay nights, or they probably called it something else back then. But were there such nights one night a week or something?
No, as a matter of fact, during that time,
ladies' nights, you would
it
have
was very unpopular to be gay. But Harold Connors was an exception. Well, it was unpopular, but there was so much talent. Gay people seemed to be more talent than the other folks. Like there was a guy, Charles, what was it, Sister Charles? Man, could he sing?
He had a show too.
Oh, yeah,
That's the first man I ever
Charles
seen
Band.
wear long johns on the stage, red long johns.
Oh,
with
yeah.
White fur around the collar. That's it.
He was
Charles
something
like that.
else.
He had a pair of orange ones for Halloween. And he could sing. He was there every
Oh,
night.
yes, he was.
He's the person I was talking about when I said that when Little Jack called me in his office and said, look, we don't think like that by their home. Charles would come out, there's some poles in there.
Yeah.
Charles would climb up those poles.
That's right.
He'd do all kinds of stuff, but he had a fantastic voice and he was a show. Because I just couldn't get ready for him.
Let's hope his doggone peephole back in the back when he come to see us.
He knew everybody in there.
Oh, yeah.
He knew everybody, people who were regulars. He knew their names, where they worked, their careers. He
What they
knew
wanna
everything
sing.
about them. And Charles made more money than we could even think of.
I didn't know you were talking about Sister Charles.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I know you didn't hear nobody call him Charles Turner.
Oh,
Sister Charles, that's what I'm
Charles.
talking about.
Say
Yeah.
Sister Charles and the Hopper brothers, they the one that made the money. They
Yeah.
made the money.
But during that time, being gay was very unpopular because, you see, when my dad hired Harold Connors, he had done what I told him. He started singing like a man, dressing like a man, and Mr. Morris didn't mind. He liked his singing. As long as he acted like a man, it was okay, but Mr. Morris wouldn't have had him standing up there singing, looking like no woman. He told us, but now Harold, the next night, Harold brought Louise Rice with him and said she was his wife, but everybody knew Louise was a lesbian. You see, now it ended up with Wanda and I, Louise and Harold hanging out. After we closed, at the Plantation Inn, we would go to Mitchell's Hotel.
Y'all hanging out?
Oh, yeah. We would go to Mitchell's Hotel and check out Bill Harvey, and hang out till daybreak some morning. And I found out that people was shunning me because they thought I was gay.
I was hoping you realized that.
You know? And I was the only 1% that wasn't. but that's, you know, people I wondered why they shunning me. You know, but that's what time it was back then. People just did not accept gays then. Like they didn't accept whites and blacks mixing then. This is a different day. You know, they're talking about woman's rights and everything, all other kind of rights today. And I heard a big argument about affirmative action. You know, some people say affirmative action is wrong. You know, because black people getting jobs when they shouldn't be, when white folks should be hired. But I think they're gonna get to the answer eventually. You know, it's just a matter of the truth coming to the front. That's what it is. That's why I'm glad y'all got me here, because I ain't gonna tell no lie. Because I'm blessed, and I know who blessed me. See, I was sitting on his shoulder when I had that $100 habit a day in the asphalt jungle. You know what I'm saying? So I know that's why I survived. Because if it wasn't for the Spirit, I would not be here. And I thank God for that.
Man.
When I was on the road with B.B. King, talking about Harold Connors, Harold was such a fantastic singer that could sing all kinds of music. B.B. had an arranger at that time named Ozzie Horn. Ozzie changed B.B.'s band to sound like Count Basie's band. And Ozzie was a good enough musician to learn how to write for 2 trumpets, alto, tenor, and baritone, and trombone, and get a big fat sound.
Oh, yeah.
See, get the same sound as like Count Basie was getting. Harold would come out on the stage. B.B. wanted to get to everybody, so he would give everybody some music. We were even playing jazz in B.B.'s band. But our people don't know it. We were traveling all over the world. B.B. would let us play jazz the first hour. I was writing all this jazz music, and there was some fantastic jazz players in the band. Was a tenor player named George Coleman. Who was the master of the, George was the tenor player in the band. And Harold Connor was coming out singing all those songs that Frank Sinatra was singing. That kind of music. He got to those people too. And then when B.B. come on, B.B. had already given everybody, whomever was in there, what they wanted. And it was just a fantastic band. And Harold just got to everybody because he could sing any kind of music. And he was looking like a man. I guess maybe B.B. intended for him to look like a man also.
Oh, yeah.
Because I have pictures at home of B.B.'s band with Harold standing out front singing, you know, and all of that, you know. But he was a fantastic singer that a lot of people were totally unaware of.
Many of you have spoken of staying up till 4 and 5 in the morning playing. Plantation Inn, I guess, was known as a kind of after-hours spot. Were there places in Memphis where I guess, did Memphis have a curfew for a time? And
That Sunbeam's place.
Club Handle.
You mentioned the same.
Club Handle was the only place.
Mhm. Yeah.
But I'm gonna tell you what was funny. Let me tell you this was funny. On weekends when I didn't have to go to college the next day. Like on Friday night, I could go home and Saturday, you know. And when the band was showing at the Harlem House, which was the place to eat at that time.
Dog special.
And when we show up down on Beale Street to Harlem House, we get there about 4:30, and Bo Legs be down there with his band from the Flamingo. He said, "Well, folks, every musician in the world is off now, because here comes Floyd and his band." Everybody's off. Because, you know, I mean, except for Club Hanley, which Sunbeam had something going on where he could stay open all night long.
He had the best chili in the world.
Chili. Best chili in the world.
No kidding. They feed you too.
Musicians would come from New York and come and play places and come to
Get some
to
chili.
the Club Hanley and get some chili.
Yeah.
Now, were there other clubs in Memphis or even in West Memphis that had a similar format where you'd have white patrons, white customers, and black musicians? Or was the Plantation Inn kind of unique in that respect?
You had the Southern Club, the place I was telling you about earlier. The Southern Club was one of the first white clubs over there that had all black musicians also. And J.F. Stewart, a lot of people don't know about J.F. He's been out a long time. But we had a fellow named Little Richard Sanders, who I started playing with, and that was in '57, still in school. Now, he had all blues band, and we used to go from the Tiki Club prior to that, down to the Southern Club. And from the Southern Club, they had one way out called the Top Hat. And all these clubs was white, and you had nothing but black musicians during that time. Now, Mr. Tellerico really wanted to keep a black band always. And we had other people come in, there's a fellow named Johnny Rivers. He come in and play, and the people, they liked him, but they never heard of him. He wasn't playing anything except the same thing that we were playing prior to that. And then the high heel sneakers, he ended up being Memphis. Same tune, same everything else. But it ended up being Memphis. He made a hit out of it.
Did these other clubs close earlier than Plantation?
The Southern Club closed at 3 o'clock in the morning. We played from 8 to 3. That's when Isaac and I, we had to catch a cab by a fellow named Bear, driving United Cab Company one time. But we called holy hell trying to get home, but you know, that was all part of it. And we had Earl Forrester was down at the Romper Room. I played down there with him for a while. Now that was a black club. Now we always had 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning going on. Now from that, I don't know about the other clubs around. I know Flamingo and all used to close around about 2, 3 o'clock sometimes, things like that. But that's the only white club that I know of that stayed open like Plantation Inn. And they wanted to be like Plantation Inn, but they just couldn't be. They couldn't be like Plantation. There was only one Plantation Inn, to be honest with you.
I see.
Only one.
Lindbergh, I think you played at some of those other clubs too, didn't you?
Yes, I played at Whirlaway. You heard of Whirlaway?
I don't, but
The Cliff.
Yeah.
Yeah, we played
that was in the summer?
on summer.
Uh-huh.
One was on Lamar.
Lamar and Winchester.
Yes. We had 2 more white clubs over here. Excuse me. The Jungle Inn and I-35 on Highway 135. I think Elvis played over there. And they stayed open till late in the morning. And of course, Jungle Inn had black bands too.
And you said there was another one?
Yeah. I-35 they called it.
Oh, it's just called that, yeah.
Yeah. It was a white joint, black band.
Yeah.
That's why the guy requested turkey in the straw.
I don't know if Lloyd had played him all the time years back
He
on.
said, you know turkey in the straw? I said, no, sir. He said, Dad, you're going to know it. I said, yes, sir, we got it.
Yeah, I know when they dangle a $5 bill in front of you, it's you come up with something.
Yes, sir.
But Floyd played the best in them old cotton fields back home. That was one of his main requests, seemed like, because I used to enjoy it for a while. I couldn't stand it at first, but after he started playing it like that, it got to be pretty good.
Yeah,
He get on my case because I played tough all the time.
I had to gig once playing blues, and someone like that came up with a big bill and wanted me to play Dixie. And I came up with something. I never played Dixie in my life. I wanted to make that money.
See, Willie, to tell you, Willie was a jazz trumpet player, a very good jazz trumpet player. And he was playing that, you probably didn't ask him what he was doing with the band, but he was a well-known trumpet player. Everybody was aware of him being a jazz trumpet player. Yeah.
Well, I know Calvin mentioned Elvis Presley sitting in, and of course his involvement with your family. I wonder if some of the rest of you also have any memories of Elvis Presley sitting in or attending any of the times that you played.
I did.
Okay.
Elvis, we had a flamingo, and they have what they call Blue Monday. And my band would play, and Rufus Thomas would sing. And Elvis would sit in the corner and look all night long. And it finally came to, Elvis had 9 parties. I played, my band played his parties. He started at 12 o'clock at night and go to 6 o'clock in the morning.
Was this sort of a private party, or was this
No, it was a
at the
private
club?
party, it was the Elvis party. Yeah, I think the first party I played for him with Ann Margaret. She was the guest at the party.
And was this over at Graceland at his house?
No,
or
they
was-
had the first one they had the Clearpool. Then they had a couple at the Manhattan Club. And they had one around.
And any other memories of Elvis attending or sitting in?
I saw him a couple of times at the Flamingo, but he would just come up there all the time and watch Cal. That was his purpose of coming.
I got something to tell you about Elvis. Bill Black, my piano player, Joe Hall, had done Smokey Part 2 and Part 1. And the Beatles came out in '64. And when the Beatles came, they had Beatles manager, and Elvis records just went kaput. No more Elvis records. So Bill Black, when the Beatles came to Memphis, they came to Memphis because they were the first tour of America. They were going to have Bill Black to open for them. And so they came to the studio to rehearse. And everybody rehearsing and going on, and John Lennon and Elvis was talking. And I went to the bathroom, and I heard a gun shout, boom! And I had a guy named Ray Hasbro in the studio. He said, hey man, say Elvis got these shooting up in the field. I said, you gonna tell him to stop. I'm not gonna tell him. I said, hey, what are you doing? I took the gun from him and shoot up in the bed. Yeah. Should have did.
Lindbergh, did you ever have any encounters with Elvis?
No, I never did.
Never attended. Or any others? How about Bo Peep? Did Elvis ever come to any of the
Well-
places that you played?
No, but they had a radio station over here, KWM, and Howlin' Wolf and some of the other guys was playing, and Elvis used to hang around the studio, outside peeping in. But I never heard him play, only just watching him.
He never.
I would be there too.
He never sat in with Howlin' Wolf.
No,
That would have been something to
as
see.
I know him.
I'm sure.
But you know, I think his first record was That's All Right Now Mama. That was recorded by Arthur Big Boy Crudups. And he took that song.
You know, I believe that Elvis, his first record, That's All Right, Mama, that was right. That was his first recording, and he had just talked to my mother and told her he wanted to record gospel music. and she told Elvis right over there on Trigg Avenue at Reverend Brewster's church, he was my dad's cousin. She told Elvis, Elvis, cast your bread on the water, and many times it will return. And I say it will have butter and jelly on it. And he went and recorded That's All Right, Mama. He called her Mama Rose. I believe he dedicated his first record to his mother on her birthday at Mama Rose. I believe that. Because he was a very thoughtful young fellow. He used to send us a Christmas card.
Well, we're almost out of time. We've got about 5 minutes left. We've covered a number of topics, and maybe some of the discussion sparked off some further memories. So if anyone would like to add anything about the Plantation Inn and your experiences there, just go ahead.
Yeah, I heard one. This guy was a businessman over in Memphis, him and his brother. He came over to Plantation Inn, and he got